Okay, I think we're gonna go ahead and get started. And so welcome to Intersections Pathfinders of the Millennium Program. My name is Catherine Blackmer-Reyes. I am the director of the Africana, Asian American, Chicano, and Native American Studies Center located on the 5th floor of the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Library at San Jose State University. Thank you for joining us this evening. Before I introduce you to the moderators of this conversation, I first want to extend my thanks to SJSU's library marketing team, Leslie Seacrest and Mariah Ramsauer, for their support with the planning on making this program available tonight. You wouldn't hear or see, you won't hear Leslie or Mariah tonight, but they coordinated the back end of this Zoom presentation. As we celebrate Women's History Month, we will hear about two important groundbreaking women, Blanca Alvarado and Aiola Williams, and their contribution to the political landscape in Santa Clara County from 1970s to the 1990s. The two women behind this work, Maestra Nannette Regua and Dr. Harriett Arnold, are themselves important groundbreakers, and I welcome and thank them both for sharing this program with us. Dr. Arnold and Maestra Regua, thank you. The mic is yours.
Greetings. Hi, everyone.
Good afternoon, everyone. We'd like to welcome you to our session. And we're just so grateful that you're spending the time with us. You will soon see our PowerPoints coming up, and we're a tag team. So you'll hear me say next, or I'll say something insightful, I hope. I just want to welcome everyone that has come today, colleagues, former colleagues, friends of San Jose State University, alumni. And, you know, I'm always, I carry around business cards. If you're not a member of the San Jose State Alumni Association, we want you to join because you're a Spartan and you're always a Spartan. Today, our session is entitled Intersections, Pathfinders to the Millennium. Blanca Alvarado and Iola Williams. You're going to hear a lot about our research project, and this is an ongoing qualitative research project. You're going to learn about how we got to the point that we are, and we're just so grateful to Catherine and to Leslie and to the team at San Jose State. This is remarkable for us, and we're just really, really pleased. These are two, and you're going to hear us say this over and over again, two remarkable women. Nannette?
Hi, everyone. It's so nice to see you all. I'm a proud Spartan, and, you know, having this event, thank you to San Jose State. Thank you, Kathy, Mariah, Leslie, and your team for inviting us to share our research project with you all. We're just beginning the project, and we'll talk about it in a few minutes, but this is like being able to come home and being able to share our excitement and our enthusiasm of Blanca Alvarado and Aiola Williams, the queens, right? Yes. So we can start our presentation. You see my screen, Harriet?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yes, I do. And we're ready.
Perfect.
Next.
Oh, I skipped one.
Okay.
Let me go back. There we are.
You know, you're going to hear this throughout our session. It seems like a long time ago, there were two remarkable women, Blanca Alvarado and Aiola Williams. These are women of color who made a difference in the political landscape of Santa Clara County. Yet, when we start looking back into the 70s and the 80s. And we've had, and you'll hear a little bit about a recent situation that happened. These two women are often not mentioned. And we just decided, okay, let's spend some time and depth. Not, so often you have books or articles that just skim the surface. We wanted depth. What is it about these two remarkable women who've made differences in this county? So we know they were Pathfinders. And so this is where what our work is about. When I'm not doing this, I am a professor emerita at the University of the Pacific. And you wonder how I got here? I started in Santa Clara County in Alum Rock School District many years ago in Escuela Sloniker. And these were my idols when I was a young teacher and didn't know very much and was learning about change that was coming to Santa Clara County. Annette, next.
Welcome to our session. Dr. Arnold has shared with you a little bit about her background, and I'm Nannette Regua. I am as I mentioned, a proud Spartan. I have my undergraduate degree, my master's degree, and now I'm in a doctoral program in educational leadership in the Lurie College of Education. So it's so fascinating. So as much as, I tried to leave San Jose State, it keeps pulling me back. And so, right. And it's a wonderful university, and I'm so proud to be a Spartan. And Dr. Arnold mentioned that, she and I have extensive research that we have conducted and published on in San Jose. And we've documented the history of San Jose. We've documented the history of our communities. And so we are really excited to begin this project and share with you more information about this project. And so, here we are. And in a few minutes, we're going to share with you all how we got on this project. And so it's an interesting story on how Harriet and I intersected as well. Let's go to our next slide.
There are 5 things that we will do within the next hour. We're going to be proactive in responding to the history of 2 remarkable women. Number 2, we're going to share and preserve the legacy of Blanca Alvarado and Iola Williams and their work in Santa Clara County. We're going to borrow from you and others and thinking creatively about this project. So we want to have a conversation with you, and there's a period at the end where we will be asking you, we'll be borrowing from you, because we're not doing this in isolation. We will be identifying opportunities, and there are limitations, and we'll share our next steps as co-investigators of this project. Iola Williams has a quote, and she said, "I don't brag. I get things done." And this was Iola recounting her philosophy on life. Blanca, Nannette?
Blanca Alvarado, in an early interview that was conducted, she talked about voting, and she mentioned the importance of voting to her family. And so she said, voting was something that we always did. And so she was raised to value the importance of voting. And, you know, Blanca describes her parents and her family as being, quote, loyal to the Democratic Party, who believed that civic engagement and participating in politics was a privilege, but also something that was expected. It was something that you do. It was a commitment. And so she, you know, was grounded in that, in believing the importance of being involved in politics and using your vote, right?
Right. The next slide begins 6 areas of how did we get here. Nannette?
This is exciting. So I want to introduce a little bit of how we get here. And one thing is, how did Harriett and I connect? So Harriett and I served on a committee for History San Jose. And I remember that Harriett was very well into the history of African Americans in San Jose, and has conducted research for decades and published. And I remembered that. And I have researched and published on Mexican Americans in San Jose. And so in 2020, in spring of 2020, during beginning time of COVID, I started thinking about a project, and I began with Blanca, who I had been researching, and I had some preliminary interviews with her. And I just knew I had to document her life, and I had to work on a project about her. But I also remembered Iola, and I had met Iola on several occasions and knew of her legacy just as Blanca's in San Jose. And I contacted Harriett, and I pitched this idea and asked her if she'd like to work on the project with me. And luckily, Harriett agreed. And so that's how Harriett and I intersected. Did I miss anything, Harriett?
No, not at all. That, by the way, is a sidebar. We're doing these sessions, and we've been asked, why is it that you all don't tell us how you all met in the middle of COVID? Well, actually, the beginning of COVID. It was early 2020. And well, in looking at the research, we had to identify our research problem. And this was a qualitative study. And I want you to also, we want to add that it began, as I recall, Nannette, we were doing a newsletter. It was going to be a couple of paragraphs. It was going to be a newsletter paragraph about Iola and Blanca. Then we started, because you were home and you had your computers, it grew from an essay into more, it became a research problem. And then in any research problem, we had to justify the problem. What was the problem? Why are they missing in feminine history? And then number 4, we began to look at what we know about the literature. And that's when it got real sticky wicky. And then we wanted to look at the purpose of our work. Next slide. And okay, I think I lost you.
Yeah,
Okay.
I want to just interject if I can, Harriett.
Sure.
I just want to say that, you know, when we were looking at our research problem, we knew that there were, significant number of studies that have examined the roles of politics and the impact and the importance of men and women within the political system in the US. But on the other hand, we knew that there were few studies that focused on the lived experiences of women of color who are politicians in their respective urban cities. And so we knew that Blanca and Aiola fit here, where that they were excluded from the traditional narrative of politics in this country. So that was our problem, was, you know, how there's a need here, there's an emptiness, a void that needs to be fulfilled. And so we knew that when we drew out the stories of Blanca and Aiola, that we could then resolve that problem. We also knew that there has been some scholarship that has been published on women in politics in San Jose, but they were missing the cultural component, right? They were missing that. And Blanca and Aiola bring that, right? They bring their ethnic backgrounds to enhance the narrative of politics and women in politics in San Jose. So for our research project, we are really seeking to document the cultural backgrounds and the self-authorship of these two remarkable trailblazing political leaders.
And we now know, because we're telling their stories, this is a qualitative study and not the usual quantitative study. And this is about storytelling and all of the experiences. And when we look at self-authorship, adults author their stories. Adults' lives are authored by themselves. And so we got to work, and this is where we are right now, collecting data. We must have several interviews that we had preliminarily set up, and it's through the work of sessions like this that we're able to meet more people who have known both of these remarkable women in a different context. We did a session, believe it or not, 2 weeks ago, and Iola Williams was a member of my church. We have in our church archives, we have a whole set of documents set aside. It never, for some reason, some of the people that came to our session said, well, I knew Iola when she was at our church and we did blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, oh, Nannette, am I too close that I didn't even think about the stories, the rich stories of Iola that are very familiar to me. And so we're at the point of collecting data, and we're calling it conversations for this particular session, but we want to know about those stories that are not in front of us right now. And I use that as a prime example when we had folks respond at our last session and they said, well, Dr. Arnold, don't you know about? No, I didn't know about da 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 da. And then following that, we will do an analysis and we'll do the interpretation of the data. We'll be doing text analysis because this is a qualitative, we'll be using qualitative research methodology. And then we get to come back and tell you what our research did, what emerged. Now, you know, sometimes we go into a research project thinking one thing and what comes out. Sometimes I make a joke that it's like, if you've ever played with silly putty, you put it in your hand and it gooshes out in different directions. It doesn't stay where you want it to stay in the palm of your hand. So this is how we got here and this is where we're going. Nannette, a little bit about there's a fourth that's not on our slide, and that's tonight what you're a part of. Nannette?
Okay. Pathfinders to the Millennium is an oral history project. It's a qualitative research project, and it's a series of program events. It's all of these items. We also want to recognize that we were awarded a small grant from the Santa Clara County Commission on the Status of Women, and they recognize the importance of documenting the history of Aiola Williams and Blanca Alvarado. And so we're very grateful for that grant from the commission.
Well, thank you. It's 1970. San Jose, California is just awash with all kinds of things that are happening. It's the 70s, it's the 80s, and into the 90s. And you see a quote there that former Janet Gray Hayes, she indicated that San Jose was the feminist capital of the world in the 70s and the 80s. Our next slide, Nannette.
The era of the feminist capital of the world ushered in remarkable changes. In 1974, Janet Gray Hayes was elected as mayor. She was the first mayor of San Jose. And this was really a watershed moment for women's political participation in San Jose. And women started to use their voices. They started to challenge a male-dominated political system in San Jose, and women began running for political office, and they won. They did not use the gender card, but they focused on the needs of the city. And in record numbers, they ran for political office and got elected. Women represented 7 out of 11 places on the San Jose City Council. 3 out of 5 Santa Clara County Board of Supervisors were women. So as you can see, women were the majority of the seats on the City Council and the Board of Supervisors. Now, there were many factors that opened the door to politics for women, including a change in district elections with the passage of Measure F in 1978. And there was support that women felt and experienced with women's organizations, such as the National Organization for Women, the National Women's Political Caucus, and the League of Women Voters, to name a few, who supported women candidates during this time.
Iola Williams, a brief abstract. One of my favorite quotes, it's often on many things that I write, is it's an African proverb. If the lion does not tell her story, it will only be told through the mouth of the hunter. And this project that we're doing, we want to tell the story through the mouths of Aiola Williams and Blanca Alvarado. I came to San Jose in the 1970s singing the popular Dionne Warwick song, "Do You Know the Way to San Jose?" Today I was reminded of this song when I happened to see a Facebook page. In fact, Nannette said to me earlier this week, she said, "Harriet, do you have a Facebook page?" And I said, "Yeah, but you won't recognize me. I'm a penguin." And I don't usually use it because I just really don't. This Facebook page is entitled, "I Grew Up in San Jose in the 1950s to the 1980s. And there are 12,302 members that were on the page when I looked at it. And I reflected on the session we were going to have this afternoon. It's about the lived experiences of these two remarkable politicians in San Jose, and they're important to future studies about women, culture, race, and self-authorship constructs that have been important to their success. John Muir in 1868 wrote about the Santa Clara Valley. Delilah Beasley, who is Delilah Beasley, Inez Jackson, Dr. Herbert Rufkin, and myself have written about the African Americans in San Jose. I met Iola Williams as a young administrator who was not really introduced, but she immediately, once she met me, plunged me into the National Women's Political Caucus, now the early Commission on the Status of Women, and believe it or not, to the White House under Jimmy Carter, representing San Jose, California. I was young, no children, had just gotten married. And it's important that we look at our research project through the lens of self-authorship. Self-authorship refers to a phase of development within the lifelong process of the self-evolution of an adult. Self-authoring individuals take internal and external responsibilities for their thinking, feeling, and acting. Our research indicates that a self-authoring individual's perspective can differentiate parts of themselves from parts of others and distinguish their roles and their relationships. This is a highly developed skills. These women could be mothers, wives, politicians, friends, colleagues. They were able to go in and out of these multiple roles that they played. Iola was a president and board member of the Franklin McKinley School District. And let me share that according to, pause for a minute, according to the census, there was in 1970, only 10,955 African Americans in San Jose. By 1980, there was 28,792, and then in 1990, 36,397. These figures do not include other cities within Santa Clara County, such as Milpitas and Palo Alto. And the percentages were at 1.7, 3.3, 3.5 for the county. So in 1970, African Americans were 1.7 of the population of Santa Clara County, 3.3 in 1980, and 3.5 in 1990. In speaking with Iola's former campaign manager, he said her goal was to unseat Joe Cola for the city council. Her slogan was Iola for the city council. Iola the Uncola. This wife of George Williams, mother of Jennifer, Beverly, George Jr., Vince, Isla, Kevin, member of Antioch Baptist Church. She was just busy throughout the community. She was a community organizer and an activist that could integrate her interpersonal and her interpersonal dimensions of herself into the achievement of her self-authorship. She knew herself. Iola held the post of city council person for 12 years, along with 2 terms as vice mayor. She served as the vice chair of the Silicon Valley 22-mile light rail project. You know, when you reflect on the light rail project, she had a vision. At one time, we didn't have it. And there was a vision that we could have a light rail system in San Jose. She helped to secure services for seniors and today, the Senior Center in District 7 is named the Iola Williams Senior Center. She's a deeply religious woman and would often be heard saying, God is in control, not us. We are researching her lived experiences and Blanca's lived experiences. Now, are there intersections between these 2 women? Are there shared experiences? In closing, we don't wish Iola to be an asterisk as a noun in the history of politics in San Jose. We know that an asterisk is used to stand for omitted matter. We're embarking on a very long journey, and we know it. And we're so excited to be on this journey. And just as I close, I have now heard from the former National Women's Political Caucus presidents. They're so excited to be a part of this project. They no longer live in California, but the Williams family is sending me emails from all over the United States, and her family and I is just as excited. And I know that Blanca was at our last session, and we're excited that they're as well, that they're a part of what we're doing. So let's hear about Blanca briefly.
Thank you, Dr. Arnold. So it's really an honor to talk about Blanca Sanchez Alvarado. During this month of celebrating Women's History Month, you know, it's hard to live in San Jose and not know of Blanca. She is a trailblazer, a vanguard, a pioneer, and a firebrand when she needs to be. For my preliminary research of Blanca, I was really excited when I looked at issues of the Spartan Daily, because in several articles, Blanca and Iola supported students' rights. And on many occasions, the students would go to the San Jose City Council, and many times they needed support of the members. And so Blanca supported many student initiatives, such as affordable student housing, and they opposed parking rate increases. On behalf of students, Blanca and also Iola supported students at San Jose State. So even at San Jose State, Blanca has left, you know, a mark and a legacy. Also, Blanca's children, many of them attended San Jose State and graduated, and they are also Spartans. Well, Blanca entered the world of politics with a unique background, and unlike anyone else on the San Jose City Council at the time. She is the second Mexican American to serve on the San Jose City Council. She was the first Latina vice mayor, and she paved the way for several other Latinos, male and female, and other candidates of color to run for San Jose City Council. So she paved the way for them. Blanca arrived in San Jose as a youth. Her hometown, Cokedale, Colorado, was a mining town, and her father was a coal miner. He was a union man. And at one point, the coal mine closed. And so Blanca's family moved to California, and they found their way to San Jose. And Blanca and her family found working in the agricultural fields at McClay Ranch, which is located right off of Quimby in East San Jose. So at one point, Blanca's father was offered a permanent position at the ranch, and that is why they stayed permanently. Blanca attended San Jose High. She was active in several student organizations, and she also started to learn about organizing for helping the poor. And so she helped with clothing drives and food drives while she was a student at San Jose High. And then something very important happened. She met a gentleman named Jose Alvarado. And Jose Alvarado at the time was a popular radio announcer, and he was committed to social justice. And he introduced her to social justice, as well as what her parents had showed her as well. And so Blanca became active in the community. And by the 1950s and 60s, she married Jose Alvarado, and she had 5 children, and they settled in East San Jose. Her husband, Jose, and her joined a grassroots organization called the Community Service Organization, or the CSO. And one of their friends was also a member of the CSO. You might have heard of him before. His name's Cesar Chavez. And so Cesar Chavez was a neighbor of the Alvarados, and the Alvarados often invited Cesar to have meetings, CSO meetings at their home. Well, by the 1960s, she was very involved with community organizing, and she recalls something very interesting. And this quote to me is really fascinating because it talks about gender and leadership and community organizing. And so she stated in an interview, quote, "Most of the organizing, meeting, speaking, leadership was done by the males. I may not have been active. I was involved just by the virtue of being in the environment. Women were not a real part of the undertaking. Most of it was done by the males." This was common for the time in organizations that women weren't allowed to take on leadership roles. Yet Blanca paid attention and she observed the men in the organization, and she continued, right? She continued in the CSO, and she absorbed the strategies that the men were using, and also some of the women as well in these organizations. And later, in the late 1960s, Blanca did divorce Jose, and she became a single provider for her family of 5 children. And so now she's a single mom, and she found employment and she took care of her family. She got involved with an organization called the Mexican American Political Association, called MAPA, in San Jose. And she really credits MAPA for really introducing her to politics and political activism. And she became very involved. At one point, she was a secretary. And at another point later, she became president of the local MAPA association in San Jose. And she became well known in the community by the 1970s. And in 1978, Mayor Janet Gray Hayes, who was definitely an advocate for women, Hayes appointed Blanca for a charter review committee. And on that committee that Blanca was serving on, the members pushed forward recommendations to begin district elections for city council members. In the past, it had been city council members were elected at large, but the committee that Blanca was serving on recommended for San Jose to be divided into districts, and that council members needed to live in those districts. So this was a significant change that happened in San Jose, and the voters approved it. And so this then gave women opportunity, including Blanca. Well, in the 1980s, then Blanca saw that the district that she lived in, District 5, that there were no people of color who were running for city council in her district. And so she took it upon herself to run. And we're so lucky that she did. She ran and she was elected as a San Jose City Council member of District 5, which was one of the most ethnic areas in San Jose. And so, for example, 43% of District 5 were Latino and 12% were African American. Her first day as a San Jose City Council member after she got elected, and began her first day in 1981, and she was able to serve alongside Iola. So at this point, the two women intersected. Blanca would serve on the San Jose City Council from 1981 to 1994. And she was committed to serving men, women, and families in her district. And she pushed forward very important initiatives like improving housing, improving education, transportation, safer communities, and minority-owned businesses, to name a few. One of the most significant
So I guess we're having some sound difficulty with Nannette. So Harriet, do you want to
Yeah,
go forward? And
I just sent her a message. She is on campus. And so we apologize. You know, we've come to the place that we rely on our internets and what have you. As you've heard what we are planning, you've heard what we've done so far. How can you help us? What can you do? We are really seeking assistance. And if you know Iola, if you worked with Iola, if you were a colleague of Iola, if you worked with Blanca, if you are a colleague of Blanca, we want to hear your stories. We want to interview you, and we want to know the circumstances. I recall one lady who stopped me at an event, and she said, I understand that you folks are doing work on Iola and on Blanca. Well, I was Iola's babysitter. Well, we need a little bit more than being the babysitter. And so we want to know how you know Blanca. How do you know Iola? What were the circumstances? It's like the previous two people that contacted us, where we had an entire section of life that Iola had done politically, and we're getting more and more information. Well, we're adding those individuals to our interview list. And are you willing to meet with us? We have been developing these questions, and the questions are aimed at answering our research questions. This is what we will be asking you. So at this point, I do know that Nannette's believe it or not, at her institution, and she's trying to get back on. She just sent me a text, and we apologize for our situation with the internet, but we're just so excited. I guess we're just burning up the wires with our excitement on doing this project. So we're going to pause. There she is. She's back. And I just apologized for your internet connection. Not to worry.
Thank you.
This is as one of the previous participants said, we want to know about you two because you guys are so symbiotic. And I said, yeah, to say that we met on, we didn't date online, but we met online. And we've known each other, as Nannette said, for quite a while, serving on the history board for the historians. And I continue to be very active in history. But my focus is on African-American 19th century history. And so thanks to Nannette, I've moved into the 20th century and the 21st century. So this is exciting. So this is how you can help us. Are you willing to, and we're going to be opening up the chat, and you can send us a message. And our last slide is questions that you might have. And if we can answer them, just please know that we're at the beginning of our research. If for those of the academicians among you, we've done chapter 1, chapter 2, and chapter 3. So we're moving into the actual interviewing for this project. Questions, comments? Just unmute or place it in the chat box. No questions? No comments?
So Harriet and Nannette, this is Catherine. So I had a question. I mean, I assume have you spoken with Blanca? And I don't know if you're interviewing them. I don't know, Iola, if to say, but or have you spoken to family? Are you doing interviews?
Yes.
Or are you, what?
Well, in answer to yes and no and no. To keep, again, this began as a research project. And so, yes, we have, I've spent some time with, for those of you who don't know, Iola Williams did pass away about 4 years ago. And there was a number of studies and interviews. I happened to be one of about 1,000 people that went to a luncheon for her. I could not believe. And she's come out and done some really nice things for me in the past. In fact, Nannette has visited the museum in Hattiesburg, and I've spoken to her husband. And every time I talk to George gives me several more people to contact. It's amazing. And Jennifer, her daughter, for those of you who know Jennifer, she has just been the Pied Piper. The family is so excited that it's either a phone call or several email messages, or I get these email messages that say, Harriet, meet Nannette, Nannette, meet Harriet. And she's working on a research project. Yes, the second part, yes, we will be interviewing Blanca. Yes, we will be interviewing George and all of the children, because she too had, the 6 children, and they're all over the country. But this is just an introductory. We did have, Catherine, there was this one lady who came to a session and she said, I wanted to know the results. I said, I know you said you were just beginning. I wanted to know the results. What about those 2 women? Where did they intersect? I wanted to know. I said, but you just said that we were at the beginning. You said that. So I hope I've answered, and no, I've answered, Catherine.
Yeah.
Does that help?
Yes. I mean, I know that there's been quite a bit of research done on Chicanos in San Jose, leaders, And so, of course, we haven't seen the same for the African American women. So publications, so this would certainly be the opening for seeing key African American women leaders in San Jose. So that certainly would be exciting and something. Not that we wouldn't love to see new things on our Chicana leaders, right? That on our African American women leaders, it would be very exciting to see that as a forthcoming.
That's why we wanted depth. You know, there's always these, I call it the skimming of the surface, where, you know, I used to teach the requirement for teachers to get their social studies credential in elementary and high school, their secondary credentials. I don't want it to be about old dead people, you know, and dates and times. What about them and their lived experiences? And how has that made a difference in the lives of their children, our children, and our history? I'm sorry, Nannette, go ahead.
I want to say that Blanca is very excited about the project. And, you know, it means a lot to be able to go to her and to, you know, tell her we're working on this project and we want to interview you. I have done some preliminary interviews with her, but they were a different focus. And so this is our project has a different focus as well. And so, you know, she's been so receptive to me and to our research project, and she gets so excited when she hears about Iola, and she's, you know, really has great things to say about how they work together. And looking at, you know, some of the archival items, I see
Yes.
how they were similar in the ways that they voted and the initiatives that they supported. And so they were like-minded in several ways, and they were probably not like-minded in another way.
Right.
But it's really exciting to see how much we're going to see in the future, what we're going to be able to draw out of the
Right.
interviews that we're going to be conducting, and seeing how much they intersected. So that's really exciting. And I'm really fascinated with how we're going to look at women of color in politics in San Jose. You know, that is so exciting. You know, I love researching, you know, Janet Gray Hayes and, you know, Susan Hammer, and, you know, that's fabulous. But I'm so excited to anticipate what we're going to discover with these interviews. And I think it's really going to be a way to put Blanca and Iola in the forefront of history, not marginalized, but really have a woman-centered, a woman of color-centered approach to doing this research. And Blanca's family is extremely supportive as well, and that's so exciting too. So I just wanted to share that.
As I shared with Catherine, I'm just responding to you just now because I kept telling Annette, I am tired of Blanca and I'm tired of Iola being asterisks. And she goes, huh? And I just really, it just, you know, especially since you know the work that they've done. And there was a, was it share with the group that could be an incredible area for their interviews. We're seeing a message come through, and Sylvia, I'll respond to your chat in just a sec. But Catherine, we had an experience with the commission, and Nannette was not as prepared, and I should have said something, but I didn't. And they didn't know who these two ladies were. And I had served on the Commission on the Status of Women many years ago, before I had the gray hair, but they did not know who Blanca Alvarado and Aiola Williams. They knew Janet Gray Hayes, they knew all of these other women, but they didn't know who these two women were.
No, it's actually really important, and the histories that they have in a city that's changing so much. So we look forward to your continued research. It's now the top of the hour, and you know, if anyone here has a last question.
Sylvia has one, Catherine.
I have 2 questions in the chat box, Kathy.
Yeah, Sylvia has one in the chat box. Sylvia Ruiz, do I know you? Did you see it, Catherine?
I do see it, but I think, you know, if Sylvia wanted to ask the question, I don't know. But anyways, I think that it is the top of the hour. You know all how to contact us if you want to get hold of Nannette or Harriett. You can certainly contact them through us here at the library. We're happy to forward them the emails, but I think they've shared their emails as well.
Yes.
So thank you, Harriett. Thank you, Nannette, for the information on this incredible program and sharing the incredible stories of these women. That is an ongoing conversation. And I'd like to thank everybody that participated and stayed with us for the program. And so thank you. And we look forward to, if I can just do one plug, we will be having a closing reception on for quilters, the Black women quilters, on March 19th at 2 o'clock in the library on the 5th floor. And it's going to be one of our first receptions coming out of COVID in person. And so masks are required. We're going to have some music and presentation, no food yet, no drinks yet, but we would be happy to see if you could join us and participate in one of our first community gatherings on March 19th at 2 o'clock. At 2 o'clock. 2 o'clock, yeah.
Yes.
So
Yes.
with that, thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you all. And I will see you Saturday at 2 o'clock at the quilting. That
Yes.
I will.
Thank
That I
you.
will. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for everyone that came. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.